I'll tell you something. Here's a tool you can use if you feel stress as tightness in your stomach. As you guys know, I'm a somatic experienced practitioner, and this weekend I had to use this tool. So my son is huge into baseball, and he's a great pitcher, and he was going to be pitching a very important game. And the moment I saw him warming up, I could feel my stomach tighten. Because even though he's a great pitcher, I also knew it was a very stressful game, and it was a very important game to his team. And I actually noticed the tightening, but I kind of pushed it aside because I wanted to watch him and see how he was doing. And the great thing is you can do this while still keeping your eyes open. So the first thing I did was noticing the kind of energy that was in my stomach, because sometimes this kind of sympathetic, stressful, anxiety energy can show as restlessness. Sometimes it can show as tightness. And in this case, it was tightness. So what I needed to do was different than if the energy was one of restlessness. In that time, I knew what I needed was a little bit more space because my system was feeling like this. And there are many things I could have done, but this is what I did. So first of all, I looked in my body for a place that felt more comfortable. I'm not looking for a place that feels super comfortable, although you can, if you have it, definitely go there. All you need is a place that feels just a little bit better than that tightness that I had in my stomach. And there were two places. One was my face. There was a lot of wind, and I could feel that wind in my face, and it felt cool and it felt nice. But the other one was my feet. I took off my shoes and I actually could feel the grass under my feet, and it felt so cool, and I love the texture of it. I actually played with my feet a little bit just to really ground myself in that beautiful sensation. So that was my place. That was my resource. So I stayed in that place for maybe 30 seconds, just feeling the coolness, allowing my body to notice what it feels like for my feet to touch the grass, and noticing the texture, noticing what it felt like for my feet to be supported by the ground, to be received by the ground. And I just stayed there probably for about 30 seconds. And then I moved my attention to the tightness. Now, you can only do this if it is tolerable. Sometimes that tightness will be too intolerable, in which case stay with your resource, don't go to the tightness. But in this case, what I wanted to do was pendulate, which is move between a comfortable feeling and an uncomfortable feeling. And because the tightness was tolerable, I was able to do that. So that's what I did. I moved to the tightness, and I noticed what it felt like. I noticed the size of it. I noticed where it started, where it ended. And I probably was there for about 20 seconds. And then I went back to my feet. And I noticed the feet. And you know, there's always this pull of wanting to know what's happening in my stomach. I didn't let that take over. I wanted to explore my feet, notice what the texture feel like. I actually noticed how the texture was different from, for example, a carpet. Even though it does feel like a carpet, it's prickly. So I noticed the prickliness and how it didn't feel wrong. It actually felt like it was bringing my feet alive. I noticed the coolness again, and I noticed how if I moved it around, it actually provided like a nice massage. That prickliness provided like a nice massage. So I did a very, very slow movement, just noticing that. And this time around, I'll probably stay there maybe between 45 seconds to a minute. And then I went back to my stomach. And at that point, my stomach was probably half as tight as it was before. And I noticed that. I noticed how the quality of the tightness had changed. I noticed how much deeper I could breathe. And I pay attention to that. And I stayed there maybe 45 seconds to a minute. And then I went back to my feet. Once again, noticing the coolness, which wasn't as cool this time, but I was noticing how it felt to be received. How it felt that I didn't need to put a lot of effort in my foot to feel firm, to feel relaxed, to feel supported. So I noticed that, and I stay again for 45 seconds to a minute. And at that point, I actually noticed how I did a sigh. I did a and that's when I knew I had released it. In somatic experiencing, when we do a sigh, sometimes it can be a sign that you change what we call energy wells. You went from a place of little capacity to a place of more capacity. And at that time I knew I was gonna be okay. I noticed my stomach, it was a lot more released, and I just kind of noticed it change. Again, I didn't move right away. I noticed the change for about 45 seconds to a minute, allowing myself to notice how my body felt so much better, how I could breathe so much deeper. And I did all of this with my eyes open. Long story short, my son had a great shift on pitching, and I felt like I could be more present because that tightness in my stomach wasn't bothering me as much. I hope this is helpful. Let me know in the comments if you are gonna try it, or if you have tried it before, how it worked for you.